So funny story before we get started. So normally I like to watch all of the Premier League games that I can just because I do like to see how everybody else is doing, see what we have to look forward to. But on Monday I was recording some stuff for my other channel, so I didn't get a chance to watch Brighton versus Bournemouth. And I really didn't think there was going to be much there, but then I watched the highlights and I saw that overhead kick and I found out that Costello is 18 years old. I thought to myself, maybe I should watch just so I can scout this obvious future prospect that we're going to sign in probably a couple years. What's up guys and welcome to the Blues and Stripes. So not really much to talk about transfer wise so far. It did sound like it was going to be a pretty quiet January, but now we've moved on one player. There's a lot of talk about who we're going to sign. And of course we have seen before our club focus on trying to sign somebody and then just ultimately not getting anyone. There's a chance a lot of these stories could be completely pointless. But I did want to discuss a couple of the biggest ones so far and give my 2 cents on it. So right now the biggest talking point is the potential signing of Jacquet. I don't know too much about him. I did watch a video if you saw my collaboration with the Stamford Sink. He did a video comparing Jacquet with Badiashile and Tosin, which is very interesting. It does sort of show he is younger than both of them, but stats-wise, he does seem to be better in some areas and worse in others. So that's about the extent of what I know of Jacquet. But there have been a lot of people discussing the fact that we're going to sign this young 20-year-old center back from France, and we're going to sign him for a pretty hefty fee if it does go through. I think the price is up to 65 million, somewhere in there. And a lot of people are asking the question, I completely agree with this, why are we going and signing a young 20-year-old center back when we already have a lot of young center backs that are out on loan? I mean, surely it would cost less to bring back one of those defenders from loan. I know Anselmino and Sarr are the two that have been mentioned a lot. That is much more cost efficient than signing this young center back for 60 million, who I'm pretty sure is probably not going to be ready to play in the Premier League. And that's a mindset that I absolutely agree with. And my other point on that is if we're going to sign a center back, why not make it a profile we don't already have? As I said, we have the profile of the young, inexperienced center back that has a lot of potential. We already have those guys on our books. Why would we go sign another one when we've already got 3 or 4 that are like that? And I know they're not going to. I know they're going to stick to this stupid model that they just will not break away from. But why not go and sign an experienced center back for 20 to 30 million? Sure, you wouldn't get that long of a contract with him, but he would bring so much more maturity and also a good amount of leadership into that dressing room. So in my mind, transfer-wise, it makes much more sense to go do that. Get an experienced center back that maybe early 30s. I mean, we don't even need somebody that's going to be a world beater. We just need somebody in this dressing room that is going to be a leader and is going to help these defenders. Because I've discussed it in almost every match. There's so many gaps in our defensive line right now. The amount of mistakes that we keep making that are the exact same thing over and over and over again, it's very frustrating. And I think it's something that a leader in defense would help cut out. But to me, that makes much more sense than going and spending a ton of money on another young, unproven center back that could come in and be fantastic, but also he could come in and be another Badiashile. So it's one that I'm not honestly that excited about. I kind of hope the deal falls through so we can move on and hopefully get somebody that's either more Premier League proven or just an experienced defender who's going to come in and bring some maturity to the squad. But the other transfer story to discuss is the fact that Buonanotte has left the club, went and signed a loan deal with Leeds. And I gotta say, I'm pretty disappointed by that. I get it from his point of view, because he wasn't getting that much time. I think the first half of this season is really where he should have gotten more minutes. And I do blame a lot of that on Maresca. And here's the thing, I'm not saying he was going to be a phenomenal player. I don't think he was going to be Chelsea quality, but I do think he could have been more effective than he was, and more effective in the 10 position than we saw from the likes of Fernandez or João Pedro or Santos. Those guys are not natural 10s, Buonanotte is. So I think you put him in there in some of those matches earlier on when Palmer was not readily available. I think he does help form the system a bit better than forcing guys who don't play 10 into that position. And then on top of that, later on, whenever Palmer comes back, but he still needs a rest, now you've got an option to put at the 10 instead of, once again, having to force somebody there that doesn't know what they're doing. So in my opinion, it was a failed transfer, but not because he wasn't capable of helping us. I think it was a failed transfer mostly because Maresca didn't seem to rate him, didn't seem to want to give him time. And I think ultimately that hurt us in the end. I think he could have given us some help there, given us some cover in the 10. And now we don't have any cover in the 10. Now it's back to we have to play somebody out of position there. So that backup 10 role, I do hope it's a position we look to fill in January, whether it's bringing somebody back from loan or whether it's just signing another loan deal for a player, because I do think Palmer's going to need his rest for the rest of this season. And like I said, I don't want to see players played out of position anymore, because a lot of them I do think really faltered under Maresca because they kept getting moved around and shuffled instead of getting played where they are at their strongest. As far as potential moves, I know Paez and I think Enciso are both at Strasbourg. both on loan from us, if I'm not mistaken. So that might be an option for us, but outside of that, I don't really know who we would go sign at the moment. And unfortunately, I'm not the channel to do a bunch of research and see who all's out there and who might fit this system really well. I just don't have the time to look into all of that, unfortunately. But those are my quick thoughts on some of the transfer stuff. Looking ahead to tomorrow's match against Pafos at home, a lot of people are saying this is looking to be a pretty easy win, a match that we should go and crush them. And I do agree, however, don't really want to take them lightly, because, I mean, as we're seeing right now as I'm doing this review, I look over and it is 3-1 to Bodo Glimt. Clearly, you can't just take any team easily, and especially in the run of form that we're currently in, I think we need to put out a good performance and a good lineup as well. But this is also with the understanding that we're going to have a pretty tough test against Palace on the weekend. I know they are in a rough run of form. I know there's a lot of uncertainty and I guess turmoil at the club right now, but those tend to be the teams that we should be going and beating, and then we just slip up. Manager looks like he's on his way out. A couple of players look like they're on their way out. So everybody just assumes, oh yeah, this is going to be easy win for Chelsea, and then we go and get a 1-1 draw. So that is definitely the match that I'm more so concerned about. So with that in mind, I do think there should be some rotation for this match against Pafos, but not too much. So first of all, in goal, I do want it to be Sanchez still. I know Rossinier came out and said that he doesn't have a number 1 and a number 2. So kind of a rallying cry, I think, to Sanchez to be like, you have to prove yourself. You're not just going to keep the position because you've been in it all season. But I think his performance against Brentford showed he's our best keeper. And even though Pafos may not be as tough as some of the teams we could face in the Champions League, I still think we need to have our best keeper in goal for this match. At right back, I do think it probably should be James. Partially because Gusto is returning from an injury and or illness, but also because I think James's leadership back there is going to be very essential for us in this match. On the left side, I want Hato to play, just because he's shown himself to be very effective over the past few matches. I also think it'll give Cucurella something to fight for. Since he's been kind of in a rough run of form recently, Hato coming in and putting in some good performances, it's kind of a rallying cry for Cucurella now to step up. In center defense, I personally would go with Badiashile and Chalobah. Tosin seems to be out for at least the next couple weeks. So right now our only options back there are Chalobah, Achimpong, Fofana, and Badiashile. Fofana I'm assuming is going to play on the weekend, so probably should rest him here. And while I don't really trust Badiashile, I do think with the fact that Achimpong has been playing much more at right back, I think trying to move him back into center back again might be a little bit of an upheaval. We keep moving these players around. I feel like it's hard for them to get consistent performances in one position. So with that in mind, I would like him to stay at right back for now at least. And Chalobah is just sort of an ever-present back there, so I think him and Badiashile should be enough to handle Pafos tomorrow. In the midfield, personally, I'm going to go with Caicedo and Santos. In the press conference, Rossinier did say that Fernandez is still touch and go for tomorrow, so I think Caicedo and Santos is a good holding too. Santos can get up and help out in the attack as well, but for the most part, he's there to help Caicedo be just the omnipresent midfielder that he's capable of being. Like I said in my review of Brentford, having somebody in there that is capable of holding that position behind him lets him be a lot more free to go chase down the ball. So I think that midfield too would be very effective at keeping Pafos from getting much joy breaking out and countering on us. Into the front four, this one's really tough because partially there are some players that are returning from illness, so they're not going to be 100%, but also these are the types of players that need to be getting some minutes in a match like this. On the left side, Gittins is one of those players. He's just returning from illness, but he needs to be getting minutes here. He's put on some decent performances recently, but not against any Premier League sides. So these are the types of matches where he can grow in confidence. He can go up against a side that is not going to be as rough and tough. At least I don't think. I don't know much about Pafos, but I do think he needs to start here so that he can try to grow as a player, because we do need our left wings to start stepping up a lot more. On the right side, same thing with Esteval. I think he needs to play here, get some minutes, but he's also returning from illness, so will he be 100% for tomorrow? So both of them, I would prefer to play if they're ready to go, if they're 100%, but if they're not, then obviously I would understand if Neto and Garnacho are the two that start on the wings. In the middle, I want to see Palmer. I don't think he should play the full 90. I think he should probably be subbed off, assuming everything's okay. Obviously, if you still need him out there, then don't sub him off. But I would prefer to see him start tomorrow, partially because he's the only real option we have at the 10. And also, he does need to get some more minutes. He needs to get back into the flow of things. Because while I do think his fitness looks a lot better, his overall play is a bit rusty, you can tell. So I think getting match minutes like this against sides that are not going to be as tough to play against as the Premier League sides, I think it's very important for him to get minutes in matches like this. It's something that I felt like Maresca wasn't doing well when he was returning from injury, because he wouldn't even bring him to a match like this. So it's kind of a nice balancing act that you have to find, where you give him some minutes, give him some chances to grow in fitness and in quality without pushing him too much to the point where he's going to break again. And then up top, I think this is a good chance for Delap to prove that he's starting to grow as a striker here. Also, I just looked over to check the Man City match, and they're now down to 10 men. This is insane. But while João Pedro, I think, is starting to show his quality as a 9 that I think has been lacking for a lot of the season, in my opinion, mostly because of Maresca's tactics and personnel choices, I think Delap is starting to show his quality as a striker too, because he's being utilized a lot more in the system and the style that he wants to play. So while I don't think Pafos are going to give him a lot of chances to run him behind, which is typically what he wants to do, I think he's also capable of being kind of a bully striker. Now this is where he's going to have to find a way to be that bully without going too far, because we've seen him go too far a few times now, but he can use his body, he can use his aggression to put the defenders off to a point where it can open up some chances for the people around him. I feel like that's what we need in these types of matches where teams are likely going to pack it in. And then we're also going to need some players who can strike the ball from outside the box, which hopefully Palmer will start to find that again, because he was one of the players that was really good at doing that. But outside of the lineup, some stuff that I do want to see in this match. First of all, I do want to see Asugo get some minutes. He was a player that impressed me in preseason, kind of a Caicedo light from what I could tell. He does the Caicedo role pretty well. He just seems to be a bit younger and a bit less experienced. So obviously returning from injury, he's not going to be quite as good as we saw him earlier, but I would like to see a bit more from him. I would like to see him possibly give Caicedo a break, because sometimes I do think he could use it. So I would like to see him get subbed in the second half, obviously assuming everything's going okay. I don't know who all's going to be on the bench. I'm going to take a guess and say there probably won't be any youngsters on the bench, because we have enough players to take up those positions that unless we have a few injuries, it'll only be starters and backup players on the pitch and on the bench. But I think outside of winning, which I think is just a must at this point, I do want to see a comfortable win. By at least 3 goals, it would be nice to win by 4. Just something to sort of calm the nerves, say we're moving in the right direction. There's still a lot of unrest in the club right now with the fans, the feeling toward the board. And while I think they could calm a lot of this just by going and getting a player that I think pretty much the entire fan base is calling out for, I also think putting together a good run of results here, winning all of these matches, mostly beating these types of teams that we should be beating, I think that is definitely one way to kind of quiet the frustration right now. And also quiet some of the talk around Rosinha, because there's been a lot of disrespect thrown at him. I know his press conferences can be a little bit goofy at times, but honestly, I'm somebody that cares more about what goes on the pitch than what goes on in the press conference. I think for me, it's when the press conference starts to interfere with what's going on the pitch. For instance, Maresca saying that Palmer is 100% fit and then still subbing him off at 60 minutes. Those are the moments where I do get a little bit frustrated about what's being said to the media. But if Rosinha wants to go in and say all this stuff that makes him look a bit like a goof in all the press conferences, I couldn't care less about any of that. As long as he's getting the job done on the pitch, I'm happy. And so far, I do think he's shown a couple of flaws, but for the most part, solidity and a willingness to change the game. Subs that are actually going to affect us in the second half, not subs that are just going to be like for like, which is what we saw a lot of under Maresca. But those are all of my thoughts going into the game tomorrow, so let me know what you guys think down in the comment section below. What are your thoughts on our transfers and the game tomorrow? Let me know. We can talk about and discuss all that good stuff. Leave a like and subscribe for future Chelsea previews, reviews, and talks. And until next time, hope you guys have a great day, and I'll talk to y'all later. Peace out.